There's a version of you that already knows what you should do in every trade. He's quiet, calm, patient. He doesn't get excited when the tape runs fast. He doesn't panic when everyone else is selling. He simply watches and waits for his pitch. You've heard his voice before, usually right after you've ignored it. I spent 20 years drowning out that voice with tips, hunches, hope, and greed. My last mistake as a trader wasn't a bad entry or a miscalculated risk. It was the moment I finally heard that voice, crystal clear, telling me to step aside, and I traded anyway. That's when I understood. You don't become a great trader by learning new things. You become one by obeying what you already know. Let me tell you something that's going to sound strange coming from a man who made and lost fortunes in the stock market. Your problem isn't that you don't know enough. Your problem is that you know too much and obey too little. Every trader I've ever met, every speculator who's walked through those exchange doors, every man who's stared at a ticker tape until his eyes burned, they all have the same disease. They think they need more information, more signals, more patterns, more secrets. But I'm here to tell you the hard truth, the one that took me decades and millions of dollars to learn. You already have everything you need to succeed. You just refuse to use it. You're going to lose money trading. That's not pessimism, that's statistics. That's reality. That's the tuition you pay to the market for your education. But here's what nobody tells you. What nobody wants to admit because it's too painful, too personal, too much like looking in a mirror and seeing your own weakness staring back. It's not the losing trades that ruin you. It's the trades you make after you've learned the lesson. It's the moment you know better and do it anyway. It's the voice inside your head that whispers the truth, and you smile and nod and ignore it completely. Every trader thinks their problem is knowledge. They read more books, they study more charts, they follow more experts, they subscribe to more services. They're constantly searching for the missing piece, the secret ingredient, the magic formula that's going to change everything. But I'm here to tell you something that's going to save you years of pain and thousands of dollars if you'll just hear me. Your problem isn't what you don't know. Your problem is what you refuse to obey. This video will not teach you a new strategy. It will not give you a secret indicator or a magic setup. What it will do is something far more valuable and far more painful. It will show you the exact moment you stop being a gambler and become an operator. And that moment, that transformation, that shift from one type of person to another, it has nothing to do with the market. It has everything to do with you. Most trading advice tells you how to win, how to find the perfect entry, how to maximize your gains, how to catch the big moves. I'm going to show you something different. I'm going to show you how to stop losing to yourself. Because here's the myth nobody wants to bust, the lie that the entire trading education industry is built on. Discipline isn't something you learn, it's something you decide. And that decision only becomes real when you're standing at the edge of a mistake you've made 100 times before, fully aware of what you're about to do, and you finally choose differently. This isn't about the market. This is about the war inside you. The battle between the trader you are and the trader you know you need to become. And I'm going to show you how to win that war. Not by conquering emotion, not by becoming some kind of emotionless robot, but by obeying principle even when every cell in your body is screaming otherwise. If you're still trading on hope, tips, or the need to be right, this is going to hurt. This is going to feel like I'm reaching into your chest and pulling out every excuse, every rationalization, every lie you've told yourself about why you keep losing. But if you're ready to become the trader you know you're capable of being, if you're tired of betraying yourself, if you're exhausted from fighting the same battle over and over, then keep watching. Because the last mistake isn't the one that breaks you. It's the one you choose never to make again. I'm going to take you inside the trade that changed everything for me. Not because it was large, not because it was public, not because it made the newspapers or became part of Wall Street legend, but because it was the clearest, most undeniable proof that I had become my own worst enemy. This is going to be uncomfortable. This is going to feel personal, because it is personal. Every word I'm about to say is a mirror, and if you're honest with yourself, you're going to see your own face staring back. It was 1928. I'd been watching a railroad stock, let's call it Northern Continental, for 3 weeks. 3 full weeks of observation. Now, when I say watching, I don't mean glancing at the price once a day. I mean studying it, reading the tape, understanding the volume patterns, watching how it behaved on rallies, watching how it behaved on declines, watching who was buying, watching who was selling. This wasn't casual interest. This was professional observation, and every signal I'd spent years learning to trust was telling me the same story. The line of least resistance was down. Volume was drying up on rallies. Every time the stock tried to push higher, it met selling pressure. Every time it declined, it did so on increasing volume. The stock was heavy. It wanted to go down. The tape was screaming it. The patterns were clear. Any objective observer, anyone without a position, anyone without an opinion, would have seen it immediately. But I'd made money on this stock before. Not once, twice. I'd ridden it up from 32 to 47 18 months earlier. I'd bought it, again at 35 and sold at 43 6 months after that. I knew the management. I'd met the president. I understood the business. I had history with this stock, and somewhere in my mind, I'd stopped looking at what the stock was doing and started looking at what I thought it should do. That's the trap. That's where gamblers are made. When you stop observing and start opining, when you stop reading the market and start reading your own desires, when you stop being objective and start being emotional, and I walked right into it, eyes wide open, knowing exactly what I was doing. The rational part of my brain, the part that had made me millions, the quiet operator who'd learned patience and discipline through years of painful lessons, was speaking clearly. He was saying, "Stay out. This stock is not right. The action is wrong. Wait for another opportunity. There's always another train leaving the station." But I didn't listen. I didn't obey. I convinced myself I saw something the tape wasn't showing me. I didn't see anything. I wanted to see something. That's different. That's the difference between observation and wish fulfillment. That's the difference between operating and gambling. And I knew it at the time. That's what haunts me. That's what makes this my last mistake. Not that I was ignorant, not that I was caught by surprise, but that I knew better and did it anyway. I bought 2,000 shares at 41. 2,000 shares. That was a meaningful position for me at the time. Not reckless, but substantial. The kind of position that demands respect, the kind of position you don't take lightly. And from the moment I placed that order, I felt wrong. Not nervous, not excited. Wrong. Like I just betrayed myself. Like I just violated a sacred oath. The feeling was immediate and undeniable. By the close, the stock was at 39 1/4, a loss of 1 3/4 points. On 2,000 shares, that's $3,500. Now, I'd lost $3,500 before, many times. That wasn't the issue. The issue was that I was holding a stock that was acting exactly how I knew it would act. I'd predicted the behavior perfectly. I'd seen it coming, and I'd positioned myself to lose money from it anyway. I held overnight. That was violation number 2. My rule, my cardinal rule, was this. If a stock doesn't act right after I buy it, I sell it. Immediately. No questions. No second guessing. No hoping it will come back. I don't care what I think about the company. I don't care what my opinion is. If the stock acts wrong, I'm wrong, and I get out. That rule had saved me countless times. It was one of the pillars of my method, and I broke it. The next morning, Northern Continental gapped down to 37 at the open. Gap down. That means it opened lower than where it closed, with no trading in between. That's a sign of serious selling pressure. That's the market telling you, get out while you can. And what did I do? I doubled down. I bought another 2,000 shares. I told myself I was averaging in. I told myself I was getting a better price. I told myself the stock was now oversold and due for a bounce. I told myself lies. Beautiful, convincing lies that felt like logic but were pure emotion. By Thursday, the stock was trading at 34.5. I was out. I sold all 4,000 shares. I took my loss. $14,000. Gone. Vaporized. Not because the market tricked me. Not because some manipulator cornered me. Not because of bad luck or bad timing. I lost $14,000 because I refused to obey what I knew to be true. But here's what haunted me. What kept me awake at night. What made this trade different from every other losing trade I'd ever taken. I knew. Every step of the way I knew. When I bought the first 2,000 shares, I knew I was violating my observation. When I held overnight, I knew I was violating my rules. When I doubled down, I knew I was compounding my error. The voice inside me that had made me millions, that quiet, patient operator, was screaming, and I smiled, nodded, and ignored him completely. That's not a trading mistake. That's self-betrayal. That's looking at the person you know you need to be, the trader you've worked years to become, and spitting in his face. That's choosing comfort over principle. That's choosing ego over discipline. That's choosing action over patience. And it's the most expensive choice you'll ever make, not because of the money you lose, but because of the identity you abandon. I sat in my office after that trade, staring at the ledger. $14,000. I'd made more than that in a single day many times. I'd lost more than that in a single day many times. The money itself wasn't the issue. The issue was what that loss represented. It represented the gap between what I knew and what I did. It represented my willingness to betray myself. It represented my inability to control not the market, but me. And I realized something in that moment, something that changed everything. I wasn't fighting the market. I was fighting me, my need to be right, my ego, my impatience, my greed, my fear of missing out, my inability to sit still. The market was just a mirror, reflecting my flaws back at me in the form of losses. Every dollar I lost was tuition paid to learn about myself, not about stocks. Every mistake was a revelation about my character, not about price action. Most traders never see this. They spend their entire careers blaming the market. The market's irrational. The market's manipulated. The market's against me. But the market isn't against you. The market doesn't know you exist. The market is simply a mechanism for transferring money from the impatient to the patient, from the emotional to the disciplined, from those who act on hope to those who act on principle. Let me tell you about two men. They both walk into the same trading room. They both see the same tape. They both have access to the same information. They both have the same amount of capital. They both have the same opportunity. One walks out rich. The other walks out ruined. Why? What's the difference? Intelligence? No. Education? No. Connections? No. Luck? Absolutely not. The difference is this. One is a gambler, and the other is an operator. And the gap between those two identities is everything. The gambler sees opportunity everywhere. Every wiggle in the tape is a signal. Every rumor is a reason to act. Every price is a chance to make money. He's in constant motion, buying, selling, hoping, praying. He feels alive when he's in a trade. He can't sit still. The screen calls to him. The action seduces him. He tells himself he's working, but he's not working. He's feeding an addiction. The market is his drug, and he's always chasing the next hit. He doesn't trade to make money. He trades to feel something, to feel involved, to feel important, to feel like he's in the game. The operator sees differently. He watches. He waits. He knows that most of the time, there is nothing to do. Most of the time, conditions aren't right. Most of the time, the probabilities aren't in his favor. And he's comfortable with that. He's comfortable in stillness. He doesn't need action to feel useful. He doesn't need a position to feel like a trader. He understands that the big money is made in the waiting, not in the trading. The money is made in the preparation, not in the execution. The money is made in the patience, not in the action. When conditions align, when his specific, tested criteria are met, when the odds are clearly and undeniably in his favor, he acts with full force. He doesn't nibble. He doesn't test. He doesn't dip his toe. He commits, because he's been waiting for this exact moment. This is what all the patience was for. This is what all the observation was building toward. And when conditions don't align, when his criteria aren't met, when the odds aren't in his favor, he does nothing. Absolutely nothing. And he feels no guilt about it, no anxiety, no fear of missing out, because he knows another opportunity will come. They always do. The market is infinite. Time is limited. He chooses his moments carefully. I was the gambler, pretending to be the operator. I knew the rules. I could recite them. I'd written them down. I'd taught them to others. But when the moment came, when I was standing at the edge of that trade with Northern Continental, Knowing full well what I was about to do, I reached for the handle anyway. Why? Because I wanted to feel like I was doing something. Because sitting on the sidelines while the market moved felt like failure. Because I was bored. Because I was restless. Because I confused activity with productivity. That's the trap that catches 90% of traders. They think trading is about being in the market. It's not. Trading is about being right when you're in the market. Those are completely different things. You can trade 100 times a year and make no money. You can trade 5 times a year and make a fortune. It's not about frequency. It's about accuracy. It's about only swinging when you know the pitch is yours. So what separates them? What's the invisible line between the gambler and the operator? What's the thing you can't see on a chart or read in a book, but makes all the difference in the world? It's simpler than you think and harder than you'd believe. It's not intelligence. It's not capital. It's not connections. It's not luck. It's not even discipline. Not in the way most people understand it. It's identity. The gambler doesn't know he's gambling. He thinks he's trading. He thinks he's investing. He thinks he's operating. He has a system. He has rules. He has a plan. But he violates them constantly. When the market moves against him, he breaks his stop. When a trade feels good, he adds to it without criteria. When he's bored, he finds a reason to trade. He doesn't follow his system. He follows his emotions and then retrofits his system to justify his emotions. That's not trading. That's self-deception with a brokerage account. The operator knows who he is. He's made a decision about the kind of trader he's going to be. Not a wish, not a goal, a decision, an identity. And that identity is non-negotiable. When his system says don't trade, he doesn't trade, even if it kills him. When his stop is hit, he exits, even if he believes the stock will reverse. When conditions aren't met, he does nothing, even if everyone else is making money. Because violating his system isn't just a mistake. It's a violation of who he is. It's not about the money. It's about integrity, self-integrity, the agreement he has with himself about how he operates in the world. After that Northern Continental trade, after I sat in my office and stared at that $14,000 loss, I did something I'd never done before. I wrote a contract with myself. Not rules, not guidelines, not goals. A contract. A formal written agreement between me and the trader I wanted to become. And I signed it. With a pen. On paper. And I put it where I'd see it every single morning before the opening bell. The contract said this: I will not trade unless my conditions are met. I will not hold a stock that acts wrong, no matter my opinion. I will not add to a losing position. I will not trade to recover losses. I will not trade for action. I trade to make money, and I make money by waiting. 6 sentences. That's it. Simple, clear, precise, non-negotiable. And I read those 6 sentences every morning before the market opened. Not because I might forget them. I couldn't forget them if I tried. But because I needed to remind myself who I was. I needed to reinforce my identity as an operator, not a gambler. I needed to recommit to the contract every single day. And here's what happened. I still wanted to break it. Every single day. The urge didn't vanish. The temptation didn't disappear. My emotions didn't suddenly become logical. I still felt bored on slow days. I still felt FOMO when other traders made money. I still felt the itch to do something, anything, just to feel involved. None of that changed. But now, I had something stronger than urge. I had identity. I wasn't just a man trying to follow rules. I was a man who'd made a promise to himself. I was a man who decided who he was going to be. And breaking that promise, violating that contract, meant breaking me. It meant becoming someone I didn't respect, someone I didn't recognize, someone I'd spent years trying not to be. That shift, that change from external rules to internal identity, that's the difference between trying to be disciplined and being disciplined. When discipline is external, it feels like restriction. It feels like you're depriving yourself. It feels like you're missing out. But when discipline is internal, when it's part of who you are, it feels like integrity. It feels like strength. It feels like freedom, because you're no longer at war with yourself. But even that wasn't enough. The contract helped. The daily reminder helped. The identity shift helped. But I still found myself standing at the edge of trades I shouldn't take, still feeling the pull, still hearing the rationalizations. Because the real battle wasn't about rules. The real battle was about why I kept breaking them. And the answer to that question was uncomfortable, painful, the kind of truth you avoid because looking at it feels like looking directly at the sun. You think your enemy is the market. It's not. You think it's other traders, manipulators, institutions, the house, the insiders, the people with more information than you. It's not. Your enemy is the voice in your head that says, "This time is different. You can handle it. Just this once. You've learned your lesson. You're smarter now. The rules apply to other people, not you. You've earned the right to bend them. That voice is a liar. And it's your voice. That's the hardest part. It's not some external force. It's not the devil on your shoulder. It's you. It's the part of you that wants comfort more than growth, the part that wants immediate gratification more than long-term success, the part that would rather feel good right now than be great later. And that part is clever. It doesn't sound like emotion. It sounds like logic. It presents arguments. It builds cases. It finds exceptions. It's persuasive. And it's always there, waiting for the moment you're tired or stressed or excited or bored, ready to convince you that breaking your rules is actually the smart thing to do. The greatest revelation of my career wasn't a trading strategy. It wasn't a chart pattern. It wasn't a secret about how the market works. The greatest revelation was this. I wasn't fighting the market. I was fighting me. My need to be right. My ego telling me I was special. My impatience demanding action. My greed whispering about all the money I could make. My fear screaming about all the money I might miss. My inability to sit still. My addiction to stimulation. My discomfort with stillness. My need to feel productive. My desire to impress others. My shame about missing moves. All of it. All of those voices. All of those urges. All of those needs. They weren't external. They were me. And the market, the beautiful, merciless, objective market, was just a mirror. It reflected my flaws back at me in the form of losses. Every dollar I lost was a reflection of a character flaw. Every mistake was evidence of a lack of discipline. Every broken rule was proof that I still hadn't become the trader I needed to be. When I made my last mistake, when I bought Northern Continental knowing I shouldn't, when I held it knowing I should exit, when I doubled down, knowing I was compounding my error, I finally saw the reflection clearly. I wasn't a victim of bad luck. I wasn't caught by a manipulator. I wasn't fooled by false signals. I was a volunteer in my own destruction. I was choosing to lose, not consciously, not deliberately, but effectively. By refusing to obey what I knew, I was choosing failure. And the moment I took responsibility, not for the market, not for the price action, not for the news or the rumors or the other traders, but for my choices, everything shifted. Because when you blame the market, you're powerless. The market is bigger than you, stronger than you. It doesn't care about you. You can't control it. You can't change it. You can't reason with it. But when you take responsibility for your choices, you're powerful. Because you can control your choices. You can change your behavior. You can decide differently. That's when I discovered the one thing that changes everything. The thing nobody talks about because it's too uncomfortable, too simple, too obvious. The thing that separates profitable traders from broke traders isn't knowledge. It's not intelligence. It's not capital. It's not even discipline, not in the way we usually think about it. It's this, the space between stimulus and response. Let me explain. When you feel the urge to trade, what happens? For most people, it's automatic. They see a setup. They feel excitement. They click buy. Stimulus. Response. No gap. No pause. No choice. It's pure reaction. Like touching a hot stove and pulling your hand back. Automatic. Unconscious. Driven by emotion and habit, not by choice and principle. But between the stimulus and the response, there's a space. A gap. A moment where choice lives. A single breath where you can do something different. Most traders never find that space. They don't even know it exists. They feel the impulse and act. Over and over. The same stimulus, the same response, the same result. And they wonder why nothing changes. I learned to live in the gap. I learned to find that space and stretch it, make it bigger, make it conscious, make it a place where I could think instead of react. And here's how I did it. When I felt the urge to trade, I stopped, completely stopped. I didn't fight the urge. I didn't try to suppress it. I just stopped moving toward action. I took a breath, slow and deep, and I asked myself one question. Am I operating or gambling? Not. Is this a good trade? Not. What does the chart say? Not. What's my analysis? Those questions come later. The first question, the only question that matters in that moment, is am I about to act like an operator or a gambler? And if I couldn't answer clearly, immediately, without hesitation, I didn't trade. Period. No exceptions. No negotiations. If the answer wasn't obvious, the answer was no. That pause, that single moment of hesitation, that one breath between feeling and doing, saved me more money than any indicator, any pattern, any system I ever learned. Because in that pause, I reconnected with my identity. I remembered my contract. I heard the quiet voice of the operator instead of the loud voice of the gambler, and I made a choice instead of a reaction. The pause isn't weakness. It's not indecision. It's not fear. It's power. It's consciousness. It's the moment you take back control from the animal brain that's screaming for action, for stimulation, for immediate gratification. It's where discipline lives, not in the ability to suffer, not in the ability to deny yourself, but in the ability to choose based on principle instead of emotion. And that pause is available to you right now. In your very next trade, you don't need to learn anything new. You don't need a better system. You don't need more knowledge. You just need to find that space, that gap, that moment between the urge and the action. And in that moment, you ask yourself, am I operating or gambling? And you answer honestly. But the pause alone isn't enough. You need one more thing, something most traders never develop, something I didn't understand until I'd lost and made fortunes multiple times, something that sounds simple but is actually the strained, hardest skill in speculation: patience. Now, when I say patience, I don't mean waiting. Anyone can wait. Waiting is passive. Waiting is just the passage of time. I'm talking about something much more specific, much more powerful. I'm talking about waiting without anxiety. That's the key. That's the difference. That's what separates the operator from the gambler. Most traders can wait if they have to. If the market's closed, they wait. If they're out of capital, they wait. If their spouse is watching, they wait. But they're miserable doing it. They're anxious. They're watching every tick. They're refreshing the screen. They're checking their phone. They're feeling like they're missing out. They're imagining all the money other people are making. They're experiencing the wait as torture, as deprivation, as punishment. That's not patience. That's forced inaction. True patience is different. True patience is calm. It's trust. It's knowing that your opportunity will come and being content to wait for it without stress. It's not fighting the waiting. It's embracing it. It's understanding that the waiting is part of the process, not separate from it. It's recognizing that the money you make is directly proportional to your ability to do nothing when nothing is the right thing to do. I learned to love the days when I didn't trade. They became my favorite days. Not because I was lazy, not because I was scared, but because I knew I was acting like an operator. I knew I was obeying my principles. I knew I was waiting for my pitch, and that felt better than any winning trade. Because it was evidence of my evolution as a trader. It was proof that I'd become someone who could control himself. The market rewards patience more than any other quality. Not intelligence, not speed, not conviction, not hard work. Patience. The ability to wait for your pitch and swing only then. Think about it. If you took only the trades where you had overwhelming conviction, where every signal was aligned, where the odds were clearly in your favor, how many trades would you take per year? 10? 20? Probably not more than that. Maybe less. And yet most traders take hundreds of trades per year. Why? Because they can't wait. Because patience feels like inaction. Because they're bored. Because they're anxious. Because they're comparing themselves to others. Because they're afraid of missing out. Because they don't trust that their opportunity will come. Because they haven't developed the most important skill in trading, the ability to do nothing and feel good about it. When you're truly patient, Waiting doesn't feel like sacrifice. It feels like strength. It feels like you're in control. It feels like you're operating from principle instead of emotion. And that feeling is worth more than any single trade, because it's the foundation of sustainable success. It's what allows you to trade for decades instead of months. It's what prevents you from blowing up. It's what protects you from yourself. And when that pitch comes, when the conditions finally align, when every signal you've been waiting for shows up at the same time, there's one final principle that separates the profitable from the broke. It's this: when you're right, be right big. When you're wrong, be wrong small. That's the entire game. That's the only asymmetry that matters. That's how you make more money with fewer winning trades than losing trades. Most traders do the opposite. They nibble when they should feast. They take small positions when conditions are perfect, and large positions when conditions are marginal. They add to losers and cut winners. They're timid when they should be aggressive, and aggressive when they should be timid. They get the magnitude backwards because they're trading on emotion instead of principle. After my last mistake, I made a rule. I only take trades I can put full force behind. If I'm not willing to risk meaningful capital, I don't take the trade at all. That's not recklessness. That's clarity. That's discrimination. It means I only trade when I'm truly confident, when my criteria are met, when the odds are overwhelmingly in my favor. And if I'm not confident, I wait. I don't nibble. I don't test. I don't dip my toe. I wait for conviction. Half measures produce half results. Tentative action produces tentative outcomes. But concentrated conviction applied at the right time produces extraordinary results. That's where the big money comes from. Not from being right all the time, but from being right big when you're right and wrong small when you're wrong. The math is simple. If you make 3 times as much when you win as you lose when you lose, you only need to be right 40% of the time to make money. 40%. That's it. But most traders can't do this. They can't let their winners run because they're afraid they'll give back their gains. They can't cut their losers quickly because they're afraid of being wrong. So they do the opposite. They take quick profits and hold on to losses. They turn small winners into break-evens and small losses into catastrophes. They get the asymmetry exactly backwards, and then they wonder why they're not profitable. The solution isn't complicated. It's just uncomfortable. When you're right, when the stock is acting well, when it's doing what you thought it would do, you stay in. You let it run. You don't micromanage it. You don't take profits just because you have them. You ride it until it tells you it's done. And when you're wrong, when the stock isn't acting right, when it's not doing what you thought it would do, you exit immediately. You don't hope. You don't pray. You don't average down. You don't give it more room. You accept you were wrong, and you move on. That's the discipline. That's the edge. That's what makes the difference between professional speculation and gambling. And it requires something most people don't want to develop: the ability to be uncomfortable, to sit in a winning position and watch it move against you temporarily without panicking, to exit a losing position before it feels necessary, to act on principle instead of emotion, to obey what you know instead of what you feel. Now let me give you something practical, something you can do tonight, before you sleep, before you take another trade, something that will change how you operate if you take it seriously. I want you to write your own contract. Not rules, not a trading plan. A contract, a formal agreement between you and the trader you're committed to becoming. Get a piece of paper, not your phone, not your computer. Paper and a pen. This is physical. This is real. This is a ceremony. And write down your non-negotiables. What are you promising yourself as a trader? What lines will you not cross? What behaviors will you not tolerate from yourself? What kind of trader are you committed to being? Make it personal. Make it specific. Make it true. Don't write what you think you should write. Write what you're actually willing to commit to. If you can't commit to never averaging down, don't put it in the contract. But if you can commit to always using stops, write that down. If you can commit to never trading without a plan, write that down. If you can commit to taking only trades that meet your specific criteria, write that down. And when you're done, sign it with your actual signature, like you're entering into a legal agreement. Because you are. You're entering into an agreement with yourself. And then put it somewhere you'll see it every single day before you trade. On your monitor, on your desk, on your wall. Somewhere it's unavoidable, because you need to read it every day. Not because you'll forget it, but because you need to recommit to it. You need to reinforce your identity. You need to remember who you are. This isn't ceremonial. This isn't symbolic. This is tactical. This is practical. You're creating an identity anchor. You're making your principles visible. You're turning internal commitments into external reminders. And over time, that reminder becomes part of who you are. It's no longer something you try to do. It's something you are. Next, I want you to identify your pattern. Look back at your last 10 losing trades, not to analyze the market, not to second-guess your analysis, but to analyze you. What pattern do you see? And be honest, brutally honest. Did you trade without a clear plan? Did you hold past your stop? Did you add to a loser? Did you take a trade just for action, not because your criteria were met? Did you ignore your gut? Did you trade to recover losses? Did you trade out of boredom? Did you trade because everyone else was making money and you felt left out? Find the pattern. It's there. I promise you it's there. Every trader has one. A recurring mistake, a consistent flaw, a weakness they keep expressing over and over in slightly different forms. Find yours and name it. Give it a label. Call it what it is. Impatience, greed, fear of missing out, revenge trading, overconfidence. Whatever it is, name it. Because you can't fight an enemy you can't see. You can't fix a problem you won't acknowledge. Naming it gives you power over it. And then, before your next trade, I want you to install the pause. Here's how. Close your eyes. Take 3 slow breaths. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Feel your body. Notice your emotions. And then ask yourself one question. Am I operating or gambling? If you can answer immediately and confidently, if you can say without hesitation, I'm operating, my criteria are met, this trade aligns with my principles, then proceed. But if there's any hesitation, any uncertainty, any doubt, don't trade. Walk away. Wait for the next opportunity. Practice this every single time you feel the urge to trade, not just sometimes, not just when you remember, every time. Make it automatic. Make it a reflex. Make it impossible to trade without going through this process. And over time, it becomes natural. It becomes who you are. The pause becomes built into your operating system. You'll find yourself automatically stopping and checking in before acting. And that pause will save you thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars over your trading career. Now, here's something nobody does, but everyone should. Create a no-trade journal. Most traders journal their trades. That's good. But I want you to journal your non-trades. Every time you feel the urge to trade and you resist, write it down. What did you want to do? Why didn't you do it? How did you feel? What was the urge? What was the rationalization? What principle kept you out? This journal will become your most valuable document, more valuable than your trading journal, because it tracks the moments you acted like an operator instead of a gambler. It builds evidence of your discipline. It shows you that you're capable of restraint. It documents your growth. And over time, it rewires your identity. You start to see yourself as someone who has discipline, not someone who needs discipline. Someone who can wait, not someone who struggles to wait. Someone who operates from principle, not someone who fights their emotions. Read this journal regularly, especially when you're struggling, especially when you feel weak, especially when you're tempted to break your rules, because it reminds you who you are. It reminds you of what you're capable of. It shows you that you've done hard things before and you can do them again. It's your evidence, your proof, your testimony to yourself about yourself. And finally, I want you to redefine success. Stop measuring success by how much you made today. Stop measuring success by whether you beat the market. Stop measuring success by comparing yourself to other traders. Start measuring success by whether you followed your process. Did you wait for your conditions? Did you honor your stops? Did you avoid revenge trades? Did you trade from principle or emotion? Did you act like an operator or a gambler? If you followed your process and lost money, that's a successful day. Let me say that again because it's counterintuitive and most traders can't accept it. If you followed your process perfectly and lost money, that's a successful day. Because the market will reward process over time, but only if you protect the process fiercely, only if you value the process more than any individual outcome, only if you understand that results are probabilistic but process is deterministic. You can't control whether a trade makes money. Too many variables, too many unknowns. The market does what it wants, but you can control whether you follow your process. You have complete control over that. So make that your measure of success. Make that your standard. Make that what you're proud of. Not the money, the adherence to principle, not the outcome, the integrity of your actions. This shift, this change, from outcome-based to process-based evaluation, is transformational. It removes the emotional volatility. It removes the highs and lows. It removes the addiction to winning and the devastation of losing. You become steady, consistent, predictable to yourself. You know what you're going to do before the market opens. You know how you're going to act regardless of what happens. You're no longer at the mercy of results. You're operating from principle, and that principle is independent of outcomes. So let me bring this home. Let me tie all of this together and give you the one truth you need to remember when everything else fades. The last mistake I ever made as a trader wasn't my biggest loss. It wasn't my most public failure. It wasn't the trade that made the newspapers or the one my colleagues talked about. It was the trade I made when I knew better. The trade I made in full awareness that I was violating everything I'd learned. The trade I made while hearing the voice of the operator inside me screaming to stop and choosing to act anyway. That was my last mistake. Not because I never made another error in judgment, not because every trade afterwards was profitable, but because I never again betrayed what I knew to be true. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to lose trades. You're going to read the market wrong. You're going to miss moves. You're going to get stopped out and watch the stock run without you. That's part of the game. That's the cost of admission. That's the tuition you pay for the privilege of speculation. But there's a difference, a profound difference, between losing because the market moved against you and losing because you moved against yourself. One is part of speculation. One is acceptable. One is factored into the probabilities. The other is self-destruction. The other is betrayal. The other is choosing to lose. You already know what to do. That's the truth nobody wants to hear. You already have everything you need to succeed. The knowledge is already inside you. You've read the books. You've seen the patterns. You've felt the sting of ignoring your intuition. You've experienced the consequences of breaking your rules. You know, the problem isn't knowledge. The problem is obedience. The problem is the gap between what you know and what you do. And that gap is closed not through learning but through decision, not through acquisition but through commitment, not through adding but through subtracting. Subtracting the trades that don't meet your criteria, subtracting the behaviors that violate your principles, subtracting the emotions that cloud your judgment, subtracting everything that isn't aligned with the trader you're committed to being. The discipline you need is available right now, not tomorrow, not after you read another book, not after you take another course. Right now, in this moment, in your next trade. The operator you're capable of becoming isn't some distant fantasy. He's not years away. He's one decision away. One pause. One moment of obedience to what you already know. One choice to act from principle instead of emotion. Stop searching for the next strategy. Stop chasing the secret system. Stop looking for the missing piece. There is no missing piece. You have everything you need. The only secret, if there is one, is this. Obey what you know, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. That's the entire game. That's the only edge you'll ever have. Not your charts, not your analysis, not your intelligence, your ability to do what you know is right when your emotions are begging you to do otherwise. My last mistake taught me that I was never fighting the market. I was fighting me, my impatience, my need to be right, my ego, my greed, my fear, my inability to sit still, my addiction to action, all of it. The market was just the arena where that battle played out. And the moment I stopped fighting and started obeying, the moment I stopped trying to control the market and started controlling myself, everything changed. Not overnight, not dramatically, but consistently, steadily, irreversibly. Your last mistake is waiting for you. It's coming. It's the next time you feel the urge to trade against your rules. The next time you want to hold a loser just a little longer. The next time you want to add to a position that isn't acting right. The next time you want to take a trade for action instead of opportunity. The next time you hear the quiet voice of the operator telling you to wait, and you reach for the handle anyway. That moment is coming. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. But it's coming. And when it does, you have a choice. You can make the same mistake again. You can ignore what you know. You can act on emotion. You can betray yourself one more time. Or you can make it your last mistake. You can pause. You can breathe. You can ask yourself, am I operating or gambling? And you can choose differently. You can obey what you know. You can act from principle. You can become, in that single moment, the trader you've always known you could be. I hope you choose wisely. I hope you find the strength to do what's right instead of what feels good. I hope you develop the patience to wait for your pitch. I hope you build the discipline to honor your rules even when it hurts. I hope you create the identity of an operator and defend it fiercely, because that's the only thing that matters. Not the money, not the winning percentage, not the recognition, the integrity of your process, the quality of your decisions, the alignment between what you know and what you do. If this shifted something in you, if you felt the truth in what I shared, if you saw yourself in my mistakes, do me a favor. Leave a comment and tell me, what's the one trading rule you keep breaking? Let's get it out in the open. Let's name it. Sometimes just saying it out loud, just acknowledging it publicly, takes away its power. Sometimes, confession is the first step toward change. So tell me, what's your pattern? What's the mistake you keep making? What's the rule you know but won't obey? And if you want more of this, if you want the hard truths about speculation and discipline without the fluff, without the hype, without the false promises, subscribe. I'll be here every week, speaking the lessons the market taught me the hard way, the lessons I paid for with real money and real pain, the lessons that transformed me from a gambler into an operator, the lessons you need to hear if you're serious about this game. Now go. Sit in front of that screen. Place your contract where you can see it. Take your pause before every trade. Ask yourself the question. And remember, the market doesn't care about your hope. It doesn't care about your dreams. It doesn't care about your opinions. It only rewards your discipline. It only pays those who can wait. It only transfers wealth to those who act from principle instead of emotion. Make your last mistake count. Make it the turning point. Make it the moment everything changes. Because on the other side of that decision is the trader you've always wanted to become. He's waiting for you. He's been waiting this whole time. All you have to do is choose him. All you have to do is obey what you already know. All you have to do is act like the operator.